heartland of England is known as the Midlands, where farms and factories together form the backbone of the nation, where local history is measured not in years, but in millennia, where tradition is an element of daily life. Once each year, the Midlands welcome visitors from the heartland of America, where the tradition of championship open wheel racing was born on oval tracks. That oval track tradition is the order of the day when the Kart FedEx Championship comes to call in the English Midlands at the unique loop of asphalt that is Rockingham. In April, the Champ Cars opened their oval track season at Motegi, Japan, where Bruno Junqueira won from pole position. In early June, on the Milwaukee Mile, it was Paul Tracy grabbing the lead at the start and driving to the top step of the podium. 4 weeks later, Chicago Motor Speedway hosted the fourth of Cristiano Damata's 6 wins thus far. Today, it's Rockingham. Look fast. The track is unusual, the food is unfamiliar, but the welcome has been warm, and the stars of the FedEx Championship Series are ready to put on an oval track show in the Rockingham 500. But first, we must qualify. Welcome to an absolutely beautiful day in Corby, England, home of Rockingham Motor Speedway, and round 15 of the Kart FedEx Championship Series for 2002. This may be an away race for the series, but it is very much a home event for the technology. With more on that, here's Derek Daly.
Bob, Rockingham sits in an area known as the British Midlands. The British Midlands, many people would tell you, is where the heartbeat of the world's motorsports industry comes from. Half of the Formula One teams are from here. Lola is from here. Cosworth Racing is from here, as well as a host of other suppliers to the motorsports industry. In fact, the industry itself generates in excess of $2 billion a year in revenue. So this weekend very much is a showcase of British motor racing. And of course, this industry has also spawned the careers of many of our owners in kart. People like Derek Walker, people like Keith Wiggins from Herdez, and of course the man I drove for in Formula One, Mo Nunn. But maybe the real emotional interest this weekend might be for a brand new team. With more on that, let's go to the man who has a British passport on our announcing staff, Calvin Fish. Calvin?
Double D, well, the patron saint of England is St. George, and here this weekend we have Team St. George, led by young Englishman Darren Manning. Who is Darren Manning? Well, he's 27 years old. He's had a lot of success in Formula 3, winning racing here in Europe, and he was also the 1996 Japanese F3 champion. Right now, Darren is getting set to get in the car for qualifying this afternoon. The team itself, it's really an amalgamation of guys from Dale Coyne Racing and Sigma Autosport. In fact, the car that Darren is driving this afternoon is Max Papst's car that was run earlier this year. Unfortunately for the team, they had gearbox problems this morning, really limited their running. So as Darren goes out for single car qualifying, the first time he's experienced this in his driving career, it's really an untested car. He was less than 1 second off the pace. When we look at this morning's times, he ran a 25.7, and at the top of the charts, it was Alex Tagliani. Remember, he had a great result at Motegi, Japan, finishing second there, and the big surprise to see 3 of the top 5 being Reynards. In practice this morning, the draft was a big factor. Many of the teams believe that was worth 0.2 of a second. So when we get out for single car qualifying this afternoon, we expect to see this list jumbled up a little bit. Let's go up top to Bob.
All right, thank you very much, Calvin. Notice how suddenly he's calling it the draft as we welcome you to a very interesting oval here in Corby, England. I'm Bob Varsha. As always, Tommy Kendall alongside, and joining us this weekend, Scott Pruitt has made his way up from the pit lane. We just looked at that list of speeds, TK. You better have a lap at 2:14 or so if you're going to have a shot at pole today.
That's true, and they might have to go through a little bit to get there. We've had some very unusual qualifying sessions this year. One in particular that stands out is Chicago, the last oval we raced at. 2 teams, Adrian Fernandez and Michael Andretti, withdrew their cars and made second runs in their backup cars. They did it because of problems, but I think that you might see some of that today for different reasons. The ASCAR cars, Colin McRae is making his stock car debut. It's the British version of NASCAR. They're out there on the track, and the past has shown that the Champ Car's rubber is very incompatible with the stock car rubber. So it would not surprise me. These teams and drivers are very clever. They will do anything to gain an advantage. It would not surprise me if some of the guys at the front of the order who are worried about that lack of grip might use either their first warm-up laps or their whole first run to wipe ass car rubber off of the track.
Yes, exactly. Now, Scott, we've already seen what the weather's like outside our announce booth here in Corby. Last year, the story was rain, weepers on the track, no practice, qualifying set on points. Not a problem this weekend.
Not a problem at all. I got a chance to talk to Tagliani and Paul Tracy. They say it's great. This is the first time I've actually been able to work on their cars on the track. They like the track. The speeds are up. They're really working at trimming the cars out right now. They have enough downforce, but they're working at trying to make them go faster in a straight line. A lot of work being done on that as we speak. Here's a quick look at the track map. Top speed just under 220 miles an hour. The slowest part of the track, turn 4. As you make through there, you might have to breathe a little bit. Minimum speed of about 207. Otherwise, it's flat out all the way around the track. As I said, the guys like it. They're trimming the cars out and wait for qualifying. We're probably going to see speeds just a little bit slower than we saw in this morning's session.
I know you mean breathing the throttle. I'm wondering these guys take a breath at all around this very unusual layout. Single car qualifying is coming up shortly, but the entertainment is fully underway here at Corby, England. For example, this fellow in his dwarf car. No hands, lots of tortured rubber. We'll be back to Rockingham and qualifying for the Rockingham 500 here on Speed Channel. Stay with us. Speed Channel coverage of the Kart FedEx Championship Series is brought to you by Toyota. Get the feeling. By FedEx, proud sponsor of the FedEx Championship Series. And by Prudential Financial, growing and protecting your wealth. Welcome back to Corby, England and the Rockingham Oval. We have Kart Friday night coming your way tonight at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And you'll want to check out this show from a nearby castle. Derek Daly hosting as always. And then the Rockingham 500 coming your way live tomorrow, Saturday morning. The pre-race beginning at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. The race itself at 8:30. So get up and join us for breakfast at Rockingham. Round 15 of the Kart FedEx Championship Series. Now let's get down to the pit lane. We're almost set for our first car to take to the racetrack. Here's Calvin Fish.
Bob, the fastest man this morning was Alex Tagliani. He's enjoying the sun here in England along with his grandfather, Bruno. And Alex, you had a lot of success earlier this year on the 1.5 mile at Motegi, and you come out of the box strong this morning. Car feel good?
Yeah, the car is good. The players' team did a good job. It seemed that our car was really strong on the oval. We were second qualifying in Chicago. We finished second in Japan. So hopefully we can improve from all those ovals and get to the highest step on the podium this weekend.
Different aerodynamic package this weekend, but since last year they've resurfaced the track itself. Big increase in grip everyone's talking about.
Yeah, the track has a lot of grip. We kept on reducing the downforce and the drag on the car to go faster. So there was grip coming from the track, grip coming from the fact that the car is more loaded in downforce and slower into the straightaway. So it's going to be difficult in the race, so that's why hopefully we can qualify up front.
By being fastest this morning, that means you're the last man to run this afternoon. There was a stock car session a little bit earlier. They put some rubber down. Do you think it's a big advantage for you going last today?
Well, it's always an advantage to beneficial of the best rubber on the track. So, you know, if the stock car rubber, I don't have experience about those guys running after them, but if it's really bad, then it's better being last.
All right, mate. Good luck this afternoon.
Thank you.
That would be a big boost for Alex Tagliani's season if he can get up on the front row or even perhaps pole for the Rockingham 500. And once again, because we're back on an oval track, we are under single car qualifying rules. Here's how it works. Of course, cars go out one at a time. 4 warm-up laps maximum. You don't have to use all 4. Then 2 of them will be on the clock. Qualifying order is determined by the practice times inverted, meaning the slowest man in practice goes out first, the fastest man, Alex Tagliani, last. Should the teams wish to qualify a spare car, and this is what Tommy was talking about, they must withdraw their qualified car, forfeit its time, in order to qualify the second. A missed turn means a loss of one timed lap, meaning you will have one and only one lap to find your place in the field for tomorrow's race. Our first car is on track, and it is the pride of all England this weekend, the new Team St. George and driver 27-year-old Darren Manning. He continues to work his way up to speed. Let's get down and talk with one of the men running that effort for Team St. George this weekend. Derek?
With Dale Coyne. Dale, I know your eyes are on the track here. Great to see you back. But Darren Manning, a young rookie, very fast, but quite a mountain for him to climb to jump in straight to qualifying.
He did a real good job. We tested here last week. Unfortunately, we had a gearbox problem this morning that cost us some time, but he's hungry for it, and the fans all want him to do well, so we're trying hard.
Thank you, Dale. I know, what was the problem this morning? Because he missed at least half of the session.
Yeah, no, we had a gear fork break in the gearbox, and we had that fixed in about a half hour, but the piece that was broken off, we had to take the whole gearbox apart to find it, so it cost us the rest of the session.
Okay, Dale, you're absolutely right. He will be the emotional support this weekend here for Darren Manning.
Thanks very much. Good to see Dale Coyne back in the kart FedEx Championship Series. We understand he's working hard on getting a couple entries into the pit lane for 2003. And there's something else we should point out about this qualifying session. Because last year was completely rained out, Darren Manning becomes the first driver, rookie or veteran, to qualify a champ car here on the Rockingham Oval.
That, and don't forget, he spent probably more time than anybody else on this track between the ASCAR Series and coming here testing last week. Now let's qualify that. What he did last week was get through his rookie test. He had a few guys here watching him and was able to come here, do his number of laps, which kart requires you do before you're in a position to go racing in the kart series.
He's on his first green flag lap right now. You'll see RAC on the side pods of the car. That's the Royal Automobile Club, which is helping to sponsor the effort this weekend.
Wants to be out there, just be smooth. Lets it come up clear to the fence, bring it right down to the white line. We're talking about you really trying to limit the amount of scrub you have in these cars.
First lap, 25.608 seconds, and the second one, 25.441, an improvement to 209.284 miles an hour. We don't anticipate Darren Manning is going to withdraw a car and qualify the backup. He is the provisional pole sitter. A big moment for folks here in Corby, England, but just the beginning. 18 more drivers set to qualify. Stand by for more from England. Welcome back to the Rockingham Oval in Corby, England. Bob Varsha, Tommy Kendall, Scott Pruitt, Derek Daly, and Calvin Fish with you. Single car qualifying for round 15 of the Kart FedEx Championship Series. Now on track, this is a bit of a surprise. New Zealander Scott Dixon, one of the slower cars in this morning's long practice. He is on track fourth in this single car qualifying as we work our way from the slowest to the fastest cars in practice.
They talk about trimming the cars out. What that means is they're looking at other options. They're fixed on the rear wing. They fixed on the gurneys and all the pieces they have to do by rule from karts. So what do? Well, Lola has stepped forward, as Tommy was saying earlier, and they have different bodywork. They have different exits, no flugels. And the teams mechanically do a number of things. They look at toes, they look at cambers, they look at raising the car up, anything they can do to reduce drag. Since they're running virtually flat around this place, except for a little lift in four, the fast guys will be flat all the way around. Any way they can trim off drag to pick up speed.
Usually it's the other way around. You're looking for grip. So Scott mentioned, toe. If you have the wheels, usually you'd have a little bit of toe in, meaning the front tires and the rear tires are pointed slightly at each other. When you run out of things to do to trim the car out, you might straighten those up a bit. Same thing on camber. You might actually maybe lean them in more so less of the tire is in contact with the ground running down the straightaways.
Dixon is on the clock. His second lap also the quicker of his two timed laps. 25.417 seconds, 209.482 miles per hour. To Calvin Fish.
Well, quick update on the aero package here, Bob. On the rear wing, this is the main gurney flap or wigger bill. This has been increased from 1/2 inch to 1.5 inches, and it really adds a tremendous amount of downforce to the rear end of the car, about 180 pounds of downforce. They also have these little side gurneys as well. These are 1/2 inch here on the side place. That also adds downforce to the car. Now, you talked about the flugels being missing. We're looking at Mario Dominguez's here, Herta's car. Typically, they have the flugels in here, which add downforce and deflects the air up over the turning wheel, which is dirty here, spilling around as the car is accelerating around the racetrack. So a lot cleaner through here. Takes drag away, but also takes downforce away. What we may see for tomorrow is some of the teams actually add these flugels back on for race conditions. Also on the front wing, nothing on Mario's car here today, but some of the teams are actually running up to a 1-inch extension on the front wing to try and balance the race car out.
Thank you, Calvin. Now on track, Oriol Servia, the Vistion car for Patrick Racing. He has 2 more warm-up laps before he goes on the clock. His best lap in this morning's practice, 25.141 seconds, 211.782 miles per hour.
Talking about balancing these cars out, I talked to a few of the engineers down there, specifically with the Orioles team, and because they picked up all this downforce on the rear, the front wings are not big enough. So they stepped forward, Lola and Reynard, and done small extensions to make the front wings bigger to try and rebalance these cars who just have too much push. And here he goes. Talked about that earlier, Tommy.
Yeah, but he's waved that run off. And I was wondering about Dixon, because Dixon was way down the charts in 24th after this morning, but he had another car that was up in 17th. So the fact that he elected to go with the car further back tells me that he might have been thinking about, he completed his run, but maybe he's thinking about bringing the backup out and withdrawing that time. And Oriol has done that.
Actually, it's a little different with Oriol. I talked to him and the team, and they said they were going to go out and run around a little bit, see if what they felt of the car, or what they felt of the track. But because he did not take the green flag, what he'll do is he'll go to the end of the line and wait till after the last man goes, which would be Tagliani, and have a chance to go back out and complete his one-time lap now. 4 warm-ups, 1 time.
But he gets to do it in the actual car rather than having to switch into the other car.
Exactly.
Servia ran just the Motegi Oval this year before he was out of a race car for a while. He started 20th there, finished 6th. Scott Dixon is our provisional pole sitter. We'll be back in a moment to Rockingham.
Welcome back to Rockingham, England, and kart qualifying. Provisional pole sitter at the moment is Scott Dixon. But Scott, you lost quite a bit of time from this morning's practice session. Is that a result of no toe out there, or did you lose the balance in the car?
I think it's definitely something to do with the toe. This circuit you're turning all the time, so it's it showed big improvements this morning when you got behind a car. But we struggled this morning. We had a few setup problems that we found after this morning's run. But I don't think this afternoon's run was much better. So I think we got a few things to look at. How
differently do you and Bruno and Kenny run the cars on an oval?
It depends. With there's so little ovals now. And being 2-day events, it's hard to sort of veer off in different directions. So, at this stage, we're fairly similar. We've varied more in like Milwaukee and places like that. But for here, we came with, pretty much the same setup, just with the minor changes.
All right, Scott Dixon coming off a very strong run in Denver, where he finished on the podium in 2nd place behind his teammate, Bruno Junqueira. Bob?
Thanks very much, Calvin. Now on track, Christian Fittipaldi goes on the green flag. This morning he lapped at 2:12.263 miles per hour. Checking his first sector time. Looks like he's ahead of that pace. In fact, he's ahead of Scott Dixon's pace.
Christian is not a big fan of this racetrack. His teammates significantly higher in the field. In fact, Cristiano ended up 3rd this morning. Typically, these guys are neck and neck, about the same speed. So I talked to him briefly, and he's not a big fan of this place.
Lap 1 for Fittipaldi puts him on provisional pole, and he's quicker thus far in lap 2. Losing speed down in turn 2.
Bob, a quick update on tires. Everybody that I've seen so far gone on brand new tires. Of course, they leave with a dose of wheel spin to warm up the rear tires. However, even taking 4 warm-up laps and the 2 qualifying laps, they're only seeing temperatures about 170 degrees Fahrenheit. Ideally, they need to be 20 degrees more. So if Chris Neifel, at the head of the qualifying line here for the first time ever, allowed them 6 warm-up laps, I think they'd all take it.
Chris Neifel, a steward for the Kart FedEx Championship Series, talks with the drivers before they go out to hear from them how many warm-up laps they're going to take. Christian Fittipaldi's second lap was not faster. First driver we've seen not to go faster on his second lap. So his lap at 25.251 seconds, 210.859 miles an hour. 2 miles an hour slower than the best he could do in this morning's practice, but he is the provisional pole sitter.
And he was 100th quicker at the first split. And you might be wondering if they're flat through turns 1, 2, and 3, how can he lose time? And that's what Scott alluded to earlier is scrub. You have scrub that's in the car, but you also have scrub if the car deviates or they catch a gust of wind, have to put a little steering input in. All of a sudden, just a little bit more steering lock will scrub that speed, won't it, Scott?
And the trick for this, I mean, coming to these tracks like when you're running flat out, you're looking at trimming the car out. You have Michigan, you have Fontana, you have Motegi, you have this place. If you're smart, if these teams are really smart, they'll try and do as much running by yourself. That's exactly what we did, and that's why we had all those pulls on these super speedways, run by yourself. A lot of these drivers would come in and go, I don't know what happened to speed, man. It just didn't seem to go. Well, that's because you had the tow.
Well, that's hard to do, but you have to be disciplined knowing you're not going to be fast in those sessions. And some of these guys competing for jobs can't do that even for a session, and it shows up. Calvin Fish?
Oriel Servia still has his helmet on, and the engineer here, Jim McGee, team manager, one of the savviest guys up and down pit lane. You did the warm-up laps and then didn't take the green, so you can basically go out in the same car and make another run at this. What did you learn from that session? Was there a problem, or were you just playing the game a little bit?
No, we were a little too loose. We took a stab at it. They ran the stock cars in between our session, and so, rather than to take a lap, it's important here the Visteon car starts up front, so we're trying to get the best out of this thing we can, so we'll take another run at it, take one lap, and hopefully we can make a good correction.
Only a couple of tenths off or so of the pace this morning. We saw 3 Reynards up in the top 5. We saw the Reynards struggle in the bumps at Denver, but here on the ovals they seem to be a good car.
Yeah, the car's been a good car. I mean, it's just Oriel's first oval race for us, and trying to get him comfortable in the car and, put the thing up front. He's got the capability to do it, and so does the team, so we want to give this one a good shot.
All right, Jim, good luck. It's all about chemistry, guys, trying to get the driver and the team working together with the setup.
And don't forget, Oriel has now, and that whole team has now announced Oriel in for the rest of this season.
Right.
And I believe that he is on the verge of signing with that team for next year as well.
Talented young Spaniard. Right now on the track, Shinji Nakano, who is still dealing, I think, with the disappointment 2 weeks ago in Denver when he had a podium spot at the finish pretty much wrapped up when the gearbox let him down on his final pit stop. Great run for Fernandez Racing and Shinji Nakano. His second lap, 25.300 seconds, 210.451. Second quick of the session to Christian Fittipaldi. So we slot Nakano into P2. Next on track will be Jimmy Vasser.
I'm going to go on a limb here. I'm going to say that pole speed is going to be a 24.998. I'm going on a limb.
What's that in miles per hour?
Well, let's just see. That's going to be
about 213 and a half, roughly?
213 and a half.
This is a bit of a homecoming for Shinji Nakano, who raced here in the UK for 3 years. And in fact, he shared an apartment once with a guy named David Coulthard, who of course went on to fame and fortune with McLaren in Formula One. There is Christian Fittipaldi, currently our pole sitter, as he watches Jimmy Vasser coming up to speed.
Calvin?
Let's get over to Christian here. Christian enjoying the sunshine in England. Never used to shine like this when you were living here, mate. You come back for a weekend. It's beautiful. Tell us about your run, though.
It's a miracle. No, it was a little bit better than this morning. We still pushed a little bit too much going into 4. But not a lot to do. You're basically wide open the whole lap, and I guess we could have run the car a little bit more neutral, but we had a huge push this morning. We changed a lot of things before qualifying. It helped, but I guess it didn't help a lot.
Does this stem from the increase in the rear gurney and the wicker bill, just trying to balance the car out again?
Well, yeah, but it's the same for everyone, and I guess that maybe we rolled off the airplane, not off the truck, off the airplane a little bit more pushy than all the other cars, but it only got better from this morning up to qualifying.
Okay, mate, go get him tomorrow.
Thanks.
All right, thanks very much, Calvin. Good luck to Christian Fittipaldi. There is Jimmy Vasser from Team Rahal in the shell car. Interesting that Shinji Nakano, the man who preceded him, of course, just a little bit slower than Jimmy in the morning practice. Vasser, a lap at 25.036 seconds, 212.670 miles an hour. About a half second quicker than his last warm-up lap.
Jimmy very heads up on super speedways. I guess you'd call this a super speedway. One of the guys certainly to watch. Has not been happy this season. Actually from mid-season on, just between first lap problems and not getting the balance right. They tried to go back to basics to really get the thing back online, back on song, and unfortunately just haven't seemed to get there.
Now a bit faster by 9 thousandths down in turn 1. Vassar's first hot lap, 25.334 seconds, 210.168 miles an hour. Good for P3 behind Fittipaldi and Nakano. Oh, but losing speed in the corners. Second lap quicker, 25.260 seconds, 210.784 miles per hour. And he jumps to second behind Christian Fittipaldi. Let's go to Derek Daly.
And Bob, there's reason to believe that Jimmy Vasser may not be happy with that run. Right before he left the head of the grid here, they had a panic because the pop-off valve would not power up. They were forced to change the valve, and they said the valve, the Ray Hall team told me this valve is not quite as good as the one we just took off. So Jimmy probably believes there's a little bit more speed left there that he hopes to show tomorrow. We'll be back in just a moment, and the further we go down the line, the faster the cars get.
Speed Channel's coverage of the Kart FedEx Championship Series is brought to you by Bridgestone, advanced technology that gives you a grip on the future. By Circuit City. We know the excitement you feel about the latest digital toys. That's why we're here. Circuit City, we're with you. And by Rogame. To purchase online, visit rogame.com. Welcome back to the Midlands of England on a beautiful day. Blue skies, fluffy clouds overhead, as you can tell by the fan blowing on Paul Tracy as he awaits his turn on the track. It is warm today in Corby, England. Adrian Fernandez is ready for the first of his 2 green flag laps as he tries to find his place on the grid for round 15 of the Kart FedEx Championship Series, the Rockingham 500, tomorrow here on Speed Channel.
Fernandez was on the pole at Milwaukee, had another good qualifying run in Chicago after he withdrew that car, put a really good number in there in Chicago. This is a different discipline. You're not dealing with balance of the car. You're trying to trim it out, but Nakano also had a good run. So I look for Adrian to kind of keep the trend going how it's supposed to go. The faster cars coming later in the session. See if he can't put this car on pole.
It's tricky. I mean, you really got to put that thing on the edge, and it takes that discipline, which Tommy was mentioning a little earlier, to as a driver and a team. Don't worry about putting that big number up there. Worry about getting the car as fast as you can by itself.
Thus far, Fernandez faster than provisional pole sitter Christian Fittipaldi. Oh, but he lost speed in turn 4. That lap 25.228 to 11.051. And Fernandez goes to pole.
So that was odd because he kept it a little bit ahead for the first 2 segments, dipped a little in 3, and then made up some between on the exit of 4 to the line.
I think what we're seeing is these guys picking up a little bit of lift in turn 4. What he could have done is actually lifted a little earlier, got on the gas sooner, trying to pick up a little bit more speed. And the only reason that's coming, these guys are picking up just a little bit too much push as they go through 4, so they have to just breathe it.
Of course, the difference was only 0.04 of a second to Calvin Fish.
Here with Jimmy Vasser currently third. Jimmy, bit of a panic here with a pop-off right before you run. Did you have full power on your run?
I think so. They said everything looked good, so I'm assuming it was. You know, we were just a tick slower than we were. I think everybody's a little bit slower than this morning without a draft, and you know, take what we can get and start the shell car wherever we end up. I think we got a decent race car. Just probably not. We're struggling on top-end speed.
You seem a little frustrated, and you know, grid position is so important here with the race tomorrow. What are your thoughts going into the race tomorrow?
Well, it's a long race. Good grid position is important, but you know, we got to take what we get and go from there and do the best we can.
All right, mate. Still got a smile on his face, barely. Let's go down to Double D.
Calvin, a lot of people think this track is a bit like Motegi. Team Green came here with all cars set up with Paul Tracy's setup from Motegi. And if you remember, he ran this Ola for the first time, was the fastest car, was leading until the right front upright broke and he was out of the race. This morning, He again was the fastest car on the racetrack, and the left rear upright they thought broke. Now, both of these were redesigned since the Motegi problems. However, upon further inspection, they found something was just left a little bit loose. So the panic was off. Tracy should still be fast, although he did miss a lot of the morning session this morning.
Hey, Derek, it depends on who you talk to. If you talk to Lola, something was left loose. If you talk to the team, it was another failure. So kind of a little blame-storming session went on after that morning failure. So I'm sure there's probably some thought going into that bearing tonight. And look at Tony Kanaan ahead of Adrian Fernandez's pace through the first two segments.
We call that the Pointer Sisters. Everybody starts pointing fingers at somebody else. I talked to Paul about that, and he certainly had a different view.
Tony Kanaan to the top of the pole charts. 25.048 seconds, 212.568 miles per hour. Kanaan, who has had so many bitter disappointments, appear to have turned the season around for himself and the Monon Racing Pioneer team. A lot of good finishes in the last half dozen races or so. And the second lap is not faster. So his best lap comes on lap 1, and Tony Kanaan is now the provisional pole sitter for the Rockingham 500. We'll take a break and be back with more. Next on track will be Michael Andretti. Stand by for more from England.
Welcome back to Rockingham, England, as kart qualifying continues. A driver who spent a lot of his early years over here in England is Adrian Fernandez. Good run this afternoon. Second right now behind Tony.
Yeah, the car is, the car felt good. I was flat-footed all the way through the track, and, so far we haven't been able to find more speed. Basically, it's just go keep trimming the car, and that's what we did. But if we can keep on the top 10, I think that will be fine. I mean, this is going to be a long race, and a lot of things can happen.
All right, Adrian, good luck tomorrow. Let's go down to Double D.
Here with another man with a British passport, Mo Nunn, owner of the Pioneer car that Tony Kanaan just put on the pole. Mo, do you believe you can hang on to that pole?
It'll be close, I think, but I think somebody will beat that time.
Motegi was a very good race for your team. Tony led it convincingly and had one of his bad luck events. You're about to break out of it with this team. You're about to maybe win a few of these races.
I sincerely hope so, Derek. I always said it takes 3 years to put a team together, but I still fully expected to win in the first year. So we won in the IRL series in our first season. So we're really, would love Tony to win a race. It'd be really nice.
Thank you, Mo. As you watch Michael Andretti on track, you can tell by Mo's accent, he is very much from the British West Midlands.
Something that Derek might know.
I've been struggling a bit with that accent, I must say, since we got here. I have to ask folks to repeat themselves from time to time. This is Michael Andretti. His car number matches his age, 39. In the closing stages, he will tell you of a glittering career. Winningest active driver, has led more laps than any other man, and he looks forward to becoming a team owner in December when he takes over Team Green and it becomes Andretti Green Racing. And Michael is flogging that baby right now. 24.928 seconds. Andretti, the first man to break into the 24-second zone. 213.591 miles an hour. Boy, Mo Nunn was right. Tony's time was going to be beaten.
Guess my prediction goes right out the window.
Well, that's why I let you go out on that limb all by yourself, Scott.
When they rolled onto the track, all three of the Team Green cars were dominant, just very, very fast. In fact, Paul had to quit about mid-session, so I think we're going to see a lot out of him as well as teammate.
A moment ago, this would have been a pole interview with Tony Kanaan. Not now, Calvin.
Tony, Michael just took the pole away from you with his run there. I'm not sure you're aware of that, but the car seems pretty strong. All the Honda boys out of the box this morning look good, and then at the end of the session, some faster times. What do you forecast for the race tomorrow?
Oh, I think it's going to be a very competitive race. We had a good run so far, I would say, because we had some problems in the morning. We couldn't run the car that we wanted to, and definitely I was satisfied with my lap time. I knew people would be faster, so the race is a it's a long race, and I think we have a very good car for the race, so we'll see what we can do.
Tony, it's been a tough season on you, but I think the biggest disappointment was probably Motegi the last time we ran on the 1.5 mile when you really were the man to beat that day and things got away from you.
We'll definitely be the man to beat tomorrow, I hope, and we're working on that. Our over setup, it's pretty good, and the guys are doing a great job. Obviously, we want to start in the front, but we have a good race car, so you guys are going to see a good race tomorrow.
All right, Tony, good luck. Cheers.
Thank you.
Keep an eye on Tony Kanaan. His average start in the 3 previous oval races this year, 4.67. Second best in the series to this man, Bruno Junqueira.
Don't forget, Tony also was dominant at the Indy 500 on that oval. That's a good team. They've had a lot of good finishes in the past few races, and he's due. He's ready, he's due, great guy, and when it happens, he's going to be a wild man.
Third quick for Bruno Junqueira, 25.054 seconds, 212.5 miles an hour, but this lap looks much better. Down through turn 4, loses a little bit of time to Michael Andretti. And at the flag, it's not enough. 25.003, 212.950 miles an hour. Michael Andretti, the 6th man to sit on provisional pole, is there for now. We'll be back in a moment to Corby.
Welcome back to Rockingham, England. Provisional pole sitter right now, Mario Andretti, Michael Andretti. Great run out there this afternoon. Tell us about the run, and more importantly, how does the racetrack here change during the course of the race that you saw from last year, Michael?
Well, the run went really well. It was wide open all the way around. You know, Team Motorola unloaded with a really quick car, and so did my teammates, so they're going to go pretty quick too. But real happy with the car. As for the track changing, it changed quite a bit during the race last year, but part of it was because it was almost dark, so the track got very cold and actually went very loose. So it'll be interesting to see what it does this year. It has more grip than last year because they resurfaced it, so the surface is definitely better.
All right, Michael Andretti very happy with the balance of the car right now. We have one of his teammates out there on the track right now, PT. Let's see what he can do.
Let's see if he's flat. Pretty flat, pretty flat.
Isn't that like pregnant? Either you are or you aren't.
That's exactly right. You can't get away with anything with all the data. You say, I'm flat. You go back and look at the data.
You did 3 warm-ups?
Nope. Okay. I don't think so.
Paul Tracy, 4th quick with his first lap.
This is such a great view.
It's pretty steady. And he moves up 1 spot with a better second lap, 25.034 seconds, 212.687 miles an hour. Good for 3rd place behind Michael Andretti and the man standing by with Calvin Fish, Bruno Junqueira.
Bruno, currently 2nd. You decided to take 1 less warm-up lap than the rest of the field today. What was the strategy there?
I don't know. I felt in the morning that I could do it, and I think I couldn't get more than that. I don't know if I do that another lap, but my car was perfect. I was flat out all the way around, very little downforce, and run a little bit short for Michael, but let's see if we can get a good start position.
Seemed like on the splits that you were a little bit up on Michael, but then turn 4. Did you just have some scrub? You said you were flat, so was there a lot of steering input, maybe cost you time through turn 4 on the last one?
Yeah, maybe. I was flat on turn 4. The car wasn't scrub speed. Maybe because I was so little downforce, maybe scrub more speed than Michael, but it's a balance between be fast on the straights and fast on the corners.
All right, Bruno, good luck tomorrow. And remember, in the championship this year, everyone sometime, gets into that 2nd position in the points. They really seem to follow that with a bad weekend, and Bruno's hoping to break that trend here in Rockingham.
Thanks, Calvin.
That's an interesting comment from Bruno. I think you get guys kind of chasing their tail a little bit, thinking they're totally trimmed out. But once the tire starts sliding, it actually scrubs more than the drag on the straightaway causes. So you can still remain flat out, but you're actually scrubbing more. So and that would not automatically lead you in the right direction. You wouldn't think to add more downforce if you were too slow flat out around. Interesting.
But it might in fact work for him.
Yep.
Now on track, Bruno Junqueira's teammate, Kenny Brack, who goes on the clock.
Following up with what Tommy was saying, one of the tricks were in driving these ovals, The smart guys like Jim McGee would tell you, how heavy does the wheel feel? Does it feel really light? Can you grab it with your fingers, or are you steering it with your hands? That lets you know how much scrub you have in the car.
Lap 1 in the books for Kenny Brack at 25.016 seconds. Third quick at 212.840 miles an hour.
And Brack is ahead of the pole pace.
Remember, he's the man who started on pole last year. The qualifying was rained out, and points were used to set the field, and he was leading coming into the last corner. He was trailing Gilles de Ferran coming out of it. Brack goes to pole, 24.908 seconds, 213.763 miles an hour. Will we see a lap at 2:14? We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Rockingham, England. Car qualifying continues. Paul Tracy, fastest man off the airplane this morning with the cars, but couldn't reproduce the time there in qualifying.
Yeah, so we made some changes and made it a little bit loose. I got flat the whole way around, but the car was sliding a little bit and scrubbing some speed. So we'll just have to see where we end up. I mean, that was really the best we could do. We weren't flat this morning, and we got it flat all the way around. But I think it slid the car a little too much.
We see the car's pretty trimmed out in terms of some of the aerodynamic aids. The flugels are gone. Are you going to actually strap some of that gear back on for tomorrow's race?
We'll have to see. I think it depends where you start. I think if you start up front, you can maybe keep it off. But the key is going to be traffic, being able to maneuver in traffic, and without any downforce, it makes it tough.
All right, PT, good luck tomorrow. Let's go down to Double D for the Lola story.
Yes, indeed, with a man who I've known for many, many years, Frank Durney. Frank, you're involved, of course, in the head of engineering for Lola. We watched earlier this year when Paul Tracy changed to a Lola, and he appeared to have problems with the right front upright in particular when he was leading at Motegi. What has happened, Frank, since then with the redesign, or what makes them live now these days?
Well, we did have a couple of problems early on with setup of the uprights, and in fact, after fighting around a little bit to try and find an absolutely guaranteed wear setup, we've actually redesigned the upright with a different bearing package, which is very easy to set up, and that's what the guys are running here today.
Frank, if you look at the loads on the suspensions, how does Rockingham compare with a place like Motegi in Japan?
It's pretty high, but the highest, I guess, are the super speedways.
Which will be Fontana coming up.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, thanks very much,
Frank, another
Derek.
question that just came into my ear. Did they do the redesign on the front uprights or the rear, or both?
We just changed the front. The one that was close was the right front, so we just changed the fronts. The rears are the same.
Thank you, Frank. I first met Frank Durney because the very first Formula One car I drove was the Heskett 308, and Frank Durney was the designer. Thank you, Frank.
He doesn't look anywhere near that old. This was Patrick Carpentier just coming in. His first lap, the quicker of his two-timed laps at 25.182 seconds, 211.437 miles per hour.
And the quickest of the Reynard contingent right now.
Using Ford Cosworth power. Now on track, Dario Franchitti, our pole sitter at the most recent oval track race of the year, Chicago Motor Speedway. As you see, fourth quick in the morning practice. Calvin Fish is standing by with the provisional pole sitter.
He's on the pole. He just got the thumbs up from the man who he knocked off the pole, Michael Andretti. Kenny, great run, very strong on your own, 24.90.
Yeah, I mean, it's not over yet, so we'll wait and see a little bit. But the Target car ran great, and, the Target crew, as always, had done a fantastic job. So we'll see if it holds up.
The shape of this oval is very unique. How does that affect the car in traffic? You and Jill had a great battle last year. You're certainly used to close proximity, particularly through the last corner there. How does it shape up for the race tomorrow?
I don't know. This is like a video game without a reset button. When you're done here. I mean, it's fast, man. It's like... It's not no oval like this in the United States. It comes across as a very small and tight oval, and it's so fast that everything's just happening like a video game.
All right, mate. Well, good luck with the game tomorrow.
Thank you.
Perhaps a little reminiscent of the something less than a mile oval at Nazareth, Pennsylvania. Always turning, something new at every corner. On board with Dario Franchitti. He goes on the clock.
1.5 mile oval, pushing average speeds of 214. That's staggering.
With only 8 degrees of banking in the corners.
The G-loading is pretty consistent. You see Dario a little bit behind the pole sitter's pace on this first lap. But the G loading is consistent. It's right at 4 Gs in all 4 corners. They sustain it longer in turn 4.
And they'll be doing that 4 times a lap for 211 laps in Saturday's race. First lap for Dario Franchitti moved him up to P3, 25.001 seconds, 212.967 miles an hour. Losing speed here on lap 2. In fact, off the throttle. The first of his 2 laps, the quicker, at 212.967 miles an hour. Franchitti remains in 3rd spot for the moment. We'll be back. Welcome back to Corby. It's an unusual weekend here on Speed Channel. You'll see the highlights of the kart race Saturday night on Speed News at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Then on Sunday, a half hour of NASCAR news and highlights at 7 p.m. Eastern on the NASCAR edition, followed by Speed News Sunday. Dave Despain and Ralph Shaheen there all weekend long. Check it out. Speed News Saturday and Sunday beginning at 7 p.m. Eastern only on Speed Channel. Welcome back. Cristiano D'Amata, the series points leader, is on the clock. Bob Varsha, Tommy Kendall, Scott Pruitt, Derek Daly, and Calvin Fish with you. Single car qualifying for the Rockingham 500. And D'Amata's first lap puts him P6 between Paul Tracy and Tony Kanaan. Ovals have not been the forte of the Newman Haas team, but D'Amata has won an oval race this year at Chicago Motor Speedway. Second lap, slight improvement, up to 3rd place, 24.954 seconds, 213.369 miles an hour for the points leader. Let's go to Derek Daly.
With Derek Walker, who just watched his driver Tora Takagi take to the racetrack. Derek, of course, you know you own the intellectual rights to Reynard now. You have to be very pleased how well this car went this morning.
Yeah, it's a good track for the Reynard. Hopefully we can keep it going here. It's tough to pass, so gonna need a good car for the race.
Derek, we bolted on more downforce and more drag here. What's the downside, what's the upside of trying to get this sweet spot now that you need to be competitive in the race?
Well, I wish we had the time, but I think you really got to stop the cars from being wide open around here. We're still pretty wide open, and that's tough to get a run on somebody when you're riding flat out all the time. So I don't think we can get there this year, but in future years, I'm sure we can work on the cars some more.
Thank you, Derek. And of course, one of Lola's strongest runners is down right now with Calvin Fish. Calvin?
Dario Franchitti currently 4th, but you set your time on the first lap. What happened on the second?
Well, I turned into 1. I was trying to use the minimum amount of steering. I just didn't turn in quite hard enough. The car got up the track a bit. I had to back out. After that, it was flat for the rest of the lap, but I'd already lost the momentum. So it's disappointing. We're flat all the way around on the first time lap, but we're just building momentum for the second. But it didn't go our way.
Team Green rolled out this morning very fast. At one point, all 3 cars, you, Michael, and Paul, the top 3. You lost a little bit. Doesn't seem like you have the ultimate speed, but how about race setup, do you think?
A car's good in the race setup, definitely. Hopefully we can show that tomorrow. It's certainly changed from Denver, isn't it?
Absolutely. How about the weather? Don't see much of this in Scotland typically, or England for that matter.
No, you don't see much of this at all. It's pretty good. It shows the guys coming over here, the sun does actually shine occasionally here.
Dario didn't even bring his sunglasses this weekend.
I spoke with Dario this weekend. Of course, he's from Scotland. This is very much a home race for Dario. I asked, how many tickets do you need for the weekend? He said, too many. Tora Takagi is now on track on his first of 2 timed laps. Second quickest in the morning practice. Only 1 man left to qualify after Takagi. And that is Alex Tagliani, fastest this morning.
Hey, Tommy, let's try and help put it into perspective to the viewers and listeners out there. You talk about 4 Gs. Well, the highest performance street cars on the road, they only generate about 1 G. 4 Gs, 3-4 times as much. It's amazing.
And your body weight technically is not a weight, it's not a mass, it's actually a measurement of force. And so if your head at 1 G weighs about 20-some pounds, maybe yours 18, I might be in the 20s. But, for example, at 4 Gs, that means the load on your neck is like your head weighed 80 pounds.
As you saw, Tora Takagi up to 4th place. He was dead even with the pole sitter off 4. Welcome back to Corby, England, where Alex Tagliani, with the Players Forsyth team fastest man in this morning's 2-hour and 15-minute practice, is on track to make his bid for pole position in the Rockingham 500. Bob Varsha, Tommy Kendall, Scott Pruitt, Derek Daly, and Calvin Fish with you as Tagliani brings it up to speed. This is a Reynard with Ford Cosworth power. And because we are in England, where tobacco advertising is not allowed, that car, like the sister car, Patrick Carpentier, and both of the Team Green cars, shows no tobacco sponsorship this weekend.
First slower. 10th slower as he goes through turn 2. The draft was big. I talked to him this morning. He said, I can't reproduce that time. I was in a big draft. Looks like exactly right, too.
First lap, 25.183 seconds, 211.428 miles an hour. Good for 10th place on the provisional grid. Derek Daly, you wanted to add?
Quick thing, Tagliani changed the gear after this morning, went taller. Right before he left the head of the grid, he asked Neil Mickelwright, do you think the taller gear might now make the car nervous in the corners? I don't know.
Well, I don't know if the car was nervous, but it didn't have the speed Tagliani wanted. The second lap was quicker, up to 211.638 miles an hour, but he improves only 1 spot. He will start 9th as of this moment, but there are at least 1 more car to come. Oriol Servia, who waved off his first attempt, will be allowed all 4 of his warm-up laps, but he will get just 1 timed lap.
What do you think, Tommy? Bump time.
It's bump day at Rockingham, or Rockingham, as they say around here. But, Scott, I wanted to comment on something that Tag said. There's an example of what you talked about. If you focus on the quick time this morning, they were, his last lap was his fastest. He came in and said, I need more revs. If they put a taller gear in, based on that draft, the car would have been lazy. We won't know until we talk to someone and hear what the data said, but that'd be a case of getting caught up and maybe trying to put a good number down and misleading yourself on what direction to go with the car.
That was a bad play, and that's something I've seen numerous times. You get a little greedy, you're thinking, you know what, a little bit more, not paying attention to how much the draft is affecting you out there. It's big.
Down at the end of the pit lane, Scott Dixon's backup car has been rolled out, but he has not yet officially withdrawn his qualified car, which is currently 15th on the grid. So we'll watch that story as we watch Servia on track.
A little bit of lift. Yeah, a little breathe there. Getting at the speed. See if he goes flat all the way during his during his 1 time lap.
There is Dixon sitting at the end of the pit lane. Back with Servia, who is still not yet on the clock.
Talk about building up that momentum. You get out there, you get running flat, tires get up to pressure, Bridgestones get up to temp.
Now he is on the clock for his 1 timed lap. Not bad through turn 1. A 10th off at turn 2. He could still make the top 10 if he doesn't lose any more speed. Oh, well off. 3/10 off there. And across the line, Servia 25.292. 210.517 miles an hour, 14th place. And Kenny Brack still sits on provisional pole. Now, I'm still wondering what his teammate, Scott Dixon's going to do. There is Dixon.
There he goes.
There goes Dixon.
Yeah.
Well, we have to assume from this that the primary car has been withdrawn from what is now 16th place on the provisional grid for Scott Dixon. Calvin Fish is standing by with Cristiano D'Amata.
Well, Cristiano discusses the run with Dario Franchitti. As you can see from Dario's hands, he had some push through one. Cristiano, what a difference a few months make. Last time you were on a 1.5 mile oval in Japan, it was a nightmare. Car's a lot better now.
Nah, don't even remember me that. No, I'm very happy with the work the whole Newman Haas team did throughout the year, not only on the 1.5 mile ovals, but in the mile ovals too. I'm, of course, very, very happy with the qualifying we had today. Coming here, I had a little bit of a question mark. I knew the car was going to be better, but still had that little bit.
Still had some nightmares there, huh?
Exactly. And this morning when I first went out, it was a big relief. So far, I think I'm third, and if that holds up, I'm going to be pretty happy.
Seems like your strategy has changed, though. You've gone more for the championship now. You said podiums, top fives are what you're looking for until you can get a clinch on this championship.
Nah, the strategy hasn't really changed. I think everybody caught up to our pace a little bit. Seems like we were able to. How can I say? Set up our car earlier than everybody else. Now everybody's closer, but I think there are a couple of road courses coming, so we should be coming back strong too.
All right, mate, well, good luck. See what happens tomorrow. Meanwhile, Scott Dixon out on track. I think what they were waiting for there, make sure nothing happened to Servia's car, so they did get an opportunity. Once they withdraw the car, that was a bit of a gamble, but here he is on his green flag run.
One and only lap in the backup car for Scott Dixon. Actually, that's a good point. He wanted to make sure Servia wasn't going to lay oil down or anything.
Right down to the bottom line, trying to, as you heard Franchitti say, he's trying to turn that wheel the least amount as possible. Tommy alluded to scrub. That's exactly where it comes from.
His last warm-up lap, 25.441 seconds, would put him up around 16th on the grid. Well, that's where he came from. And that one lap is a tenth, a little under a tenth quicker than the primary car, 25.362 seconds, 209.936 miles per hour, a little quicker, but he remained 16th. And his teammate right there, Kenny Brack, picks up his 7th career pole, 5 of which have come on oval tracks, his first pole of 2002, and the 3rd for Target Chip Ganassi Racing, meaning another big contribution to the St. Jude's Children's Research Center and Target House. We'll take a break and then talk with our pole sitters. Stand by for more. Qualifying now complete for the Rockingham 500. We'll be back to hear from Kenny Brecht. Welcome back to Corby and the Rockingham Oval, site of tomorrow's Rockingham 500. Qualifying is now complete. Here's how they'll line up. Pole for Kenny Brack. Best start of 2002 for Michael Andretti. His previous best this year was 5th at Cleveland and Vancouver. And in a season in which Michael Andretti has started on the last row 4 times, one of which was the first time in his career, that is like a long drink of water, I'm sure. Cristiano D'Amata, conservative as ever, up there in 3rd spot, followed by the surprising Tora Takagi in 4th, his best start of the 2002 season. Let's go down to the pit lane and Derek Daly.
And before Kenny Brack officially gets the flag from 3 times Formula One world champion Jackie Stewart, Kenny, I know you bit your nails towards the end, but your team really needed this.
Yeah, we did. We've been fast but struggling all year. We've been not reaching the, getting any points and stuff like that. So this was good for me and my target team and all the guys and everybody. So really appreciate it.
Kenny, some people think that you may have been robbed from a win here last year. Great fight towards the end, but lost it on the last lap. Do you see it that way?
We're all robbing and robbing each other, and Jill robbed me, but I robbed him a few times too last year. So, it was a good race last year. I think it was entertaining for the fans, and that's if you can finish on the podium and have an entertaining race, that's what we're here for.
Jackie Stewart, if I could just bring you in for a second. I know this is the British Midlands. I know the motorsports industry is very important to you and to England. It's great for you to be here with the flag on an oval track, you being, of course, a road racing specialist.
Well, I've driven the odd oval racetrack. I went to India a couple of times and enjoyed it. I did for 15 years ABC's Wide World of Sports when they didn't need an interpreter. And I enjoyed oval racing really very, very much, both NASCAR and IndyCar racing. So I'm really happy. I've never been to Rockingham before. I've done a great job. It's spectacular to see guys like this go around at those speeds. And he says he didn't lift on the last corner, but I'm not absolutely sure.
Thank you, Jackie. Please go ahead with the presentation. From 3 times Formula One world champion, Jackie Stewart to Kenny Brack.
Thanks, Derek. We apologize for the wind noise on Derek's microphone. Actually, Kenny Brack won't have to wave that flag. He can just poke it up there, and it's going to wave in a very strong breeze here at Rockingham.
He's talking about that win last year, the loss of that win, and got stolen away from him. I mean, you win wins. It's you work, you fight, you do whatever it takes. Tommy and I know you and I fought one out pretty hard, and there's not much you won't do to try and pull out a win.
I'll tell you what, that move last year by DeFerrin, you want to talk about commitment. It was, we're both crashing or I'm winning this thing, and he just hung that left. That was breathtaking.
Wonder if Jackie's got a few pointers right there for Kenny.
Final word of advice there, Kenny. Make sure you do this, that, and the other. Well, you saw those flags snapping in the breeze. This racetrack is built in a former quarry owned by British Steel. The track is set down, which makes the vantage point for the spectators in these massive grandstands absolutely spectacular, and it does help to block that breeze. Lionel, let's get down to Calvin Fish with Alex Tagliani.
Well, Alex, you were fastest this morning. You were flat out on your run, but 9th fastest in the qualifying session. Disappointment?
Yes, a little bit. I think, we found out that by yourself you need more speed, and I mean, we trimmed the car, we did everything we can to free up everything, and we still had a lack of speed. Pat is complaining about an engine problem, and I didn't complain about anything, but I was exactly the same speed, so I don't know what happened there. We just definitely need a little bit more speed in the run.
You made a gear change, we understand, before the qualifying run. Did that work out, or you were a little bit out of the power band?
No, we were on the edge. We were revving exactly where we wanted to, but I was in 6th, and if that would have been a problem, I would have had 5th or 7th. We ran 3 top gear just in case, so it was on the edge.
Okay, well, the boys will go to work tonight, try and find a bit more speed for the players, boys, tomorrow. Bob?
Thanks very much, Calvin, and we will be racing live here at Rockingham tomorrow. The Barber Pro Series will also be racing here on Speed Channel on tape from Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. Check it out tomorrow at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll be back.
Welcome back to Rockingham, England for qualifying for round 15 of the Kart FedEx Championship Series. A man with a smile on his face, Mikey. Yeah, now you went out, did a great run, stood around quite a long time and only lost the pole by 200ths. I think you still have to be reasonably pleased.
Yeah, I am. It's the best qualifying effort I've ever had with this team, so it was pretty special in that way. But to lose by 200, it's like, but the team's done a great job. Team Motorola, it unloaded really fast, and after the last few weekends out, it's nice to finally have a good race car, that unloaded fast, and we didn't have to work with too much, so it's been good.
Thank you, Michael. Down to you, Calvin.
Back behind the garages, Derek, this is what the teams are using this weekend. They don't have their transporters with them, obviously, here in England, so these green cabins are in use, and we caught up here with Tora Takagi. Tora, a great run, 4th fastest today, and this season you've shown a lot of speed, but when you get to qualifying, things haven't been clicking for you, but today, obviously, a different story.
Today, I have a good car today. Last race, solid course, very bad, but today, good image change over race, and I think over race is.
Derek says you're a very brave driver, and certainly on this oval, even Kenny Brack, who's on the pole, said, man, this thing is fast. How do you feel out there?
Today, top time is very close. 110, everybody 110s. I'm so very happy. Yeah.
Okay, well, great run today. Good luck tomorrow in the race.
Yeah, thank you.
Bob? Close indeed. The top 4 drivers all at 24.9 seconds and change as Tora Takagi pleases some of the spectators. A lot of that autographing going on. Drivers pursued at every opportunity, including going into the tent we all share to get our daily meals.
Qualifying is one thing, the race is something else. You got one setup that you're trimmed out to try and get that as much speed as possible for qualifying, but the race is a different story, especially when you only have a half-hour session to get things worked out.
A point for pole position goes to Kenny Brack. There you see the championship standings as we go into this 15th round of the Kart FedEx Championship in 2002. Cristiano D'Amata leading Bruno Junqueira by 52 points, Dario Franchitti by 69. We have more to come. Stand by. We'll be back to the Rockingham Oval in Corby, England in just a moment.
Around here.
Speed Channel's coverage of the Kart FedEx Championship Series is brought to you by FedEx, proud sponsor of the FedEx Championship Series. By Prudential Financial, growing and protecting your wealth. And by Toyota, get the feeling. Back at Rockingham, and we don't mean North Carolina. Final qualifying is now complete for the Rockingham 500. Let's get final thoughts, beginning in the pit lane with Derek Daly and Calvin Fish.
And thanks, Bob. Remember, this is the Rockingham 500. It's a long, long race, so I believe the well-organized teams will come out on top because it's only a two-day event. But also, Team Green unloaded with Paul Tracy's Motegi setup on all three cars. They've been at the top of the field virtually every session. So I believe, if you think back to what happened to Motegi, Tracy was well off in the lead before a mechanical failure. I think, Calvin, Team Green will be very strong tomorrow. What do you think?
They're going to be extremely strong. Kenny's got the pole, but look for Cristiano D'Amata. He said, no, we haven't changed our strategy. I don't believe. I think for the next 2 or 3 runs, they're trying to get him to finish, get him on the podium, strong points, and then no one else can catch him.
There you have it.
Up and down the pit lane. Gentlemen, let's get your final thoughts. Scott, how about you?
Well, you have to say the same thing. You're looking for mechanical issues. Lola still had a bit of a problem today with some uprights, and the teams have to be buttoned down. They need to go racing now, and they only have a half hour to figure it out.
I'm looking forward to seeing Michael Andretti. You wave a victory. He won earlier this year on a strategy call. I think he'd like to win one in dominant fashion. Nobody's starting in front of him. Watch him on lap 1.
Well, I agree with Calvin. I think Kenny Brack deserves one after what happened to him last year. He's been fast all year. He's just been tripping over the problems that maybe a race driver doesn't have much control over. I'm looking for Kenny Brack and Target Chip Ganassi Racing to do well here tomorrow. Don't forget, tonight, Kart Friday night coming your way at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time from a local castle. A lot of curb appeal, I'm sure you'll agree. And then, of course, race weekend, Saturday morning at Rockingham. The pre-race coverage begins live at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. Then the race itself follows at 8:30. So join us then. A beautiful day here in Corby, England. All jokes about English weather aside, please. And more is expected tomorrow when we go racing for 500.